Hello, my name is Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be going over how good the Alley Flash may or may not be, and we're not going to go over any huge number spreadsheets or anything. We're just going to be getting over a kind of rough idea of how good it might be for certain characters or whatnot. And I feel like the character that exemplified or would be able to bring out the most potential in something like Alley Flash is probably Bennett here right now. We don't have a ton of characters that can necessarily take full advantage of Alley Flash right now, in my opinion. I think that'll definitely change as we go along in the game here, but I think Bennett is probably one of the characters that can take full advantage of the Alley Flash at the moment, and we'll go over why in just a second. But before we go ahead and jump into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps support the channel and I deeply appreciate it. So without further ado, let's go over just how good is the Alley Flash. So first and foremost, as many of you know, the Alley Flash has huge base attack. You see, I've got my Skyward Blade here on my Bennett, which is typically what I use just for that huge energy recharge substat. We get some crit rate, all that good stuff on Skyward Blade is phenomenal. But what's something like the Alley Flash's base attack compared to Skyward Blade? Now, do keep in mind here, my Skyward Blade is ascended. I haven't leveled it up to 80, but it is ascended to that next level, which does contribute to its base attack. And then when we take a look at Alley Flash here, unascended, it's only 18 lower than the 5-star sword Skyward Blade. So let's take a look at Alley Flash. What happens if you actually ascended it? It actually surpasses Skyward Blade there, which is really something to know. Now, another huge thing here about Alley Flash is that its substat is pretty small in that department, and I think that's what really makes it a 4-star. You notice here at level 70, its elemental mastery bonus is only 45, which is not high at all. It's okay, it's a nice little bonus, but just for reference, I guess that's about I think 2 rolls into the elemental mastery substat category for an artifact, so it's nothing too crazy. And the maximum is solid as well. Once you get it to 90, its elemental mastery isn't that great at all, but it's definitely better than this. It's just still low regardless, and that's something you definitely want to keep in mind, and I think that's what's really holding it back as a 4-star compared to a 5-star. But it's, as you can see, the base attack here is absolutely insane, and not to mention its passive is really something we want to talk about, considering the fact that it just gives you an extra 12% of damage if you're not taking damage at that current point in time for 5 seconds, which is really strong. So if you have a character that takes advantage of high base attack or really wants high attack, then the Alley Flash is probably going to be one of the best 4-star options for you, especially as a DPS, and especially if that character is an elemental reaction character, somebody like Bennett who can work well in elemental reaction comps as a main DPS with somebody like Chongyun or Xingqiu. Now, a lot of you might be asking, why did I think Bennett was the best character to show the Alley Flash on and kind of give you guys an idea how good it can be? And that's just simply because of the fact that Fantastic Voyage here does scale off of your base attack, so you gain more attack based off of your base attack, and your weapon does account for that as well. So that's really important as well. And then also the fact that Bennett just works really well in reaction comps with characters like Chongyun and Xingqiu, so the elemental mastery is going to be coming in clutch there as well, and you're just going to be dealing that much more damage. You get to do a lot of reactions with Bennett, especially inside his ult with characters like Chongyun and Xingqiu. So I think Bennett's just really going to exemplify the Alley Flash at this current point in time. I think we will get better characters down the road for sure, but for now I think Bennett's the only one who can really take the most advantage of Alley Flash. Another one probably being somebody like Xingqiu, who does really big reactions a lot of the time while he's not on the field. And just so you guys know, the Alley Flash's passive here does work while the character's off of the field, so that's really important to know. If we ever get a character like Xingqiu who does those big reactions off of the field, Alley Flash is going to be an amazing weapon for them. So today we're just going to be doing some basic testing here. Nothing too crazy. We're just gonna go in on a boss with somebody like Chongyun and Xingqiu with Bennett here and just kind of check out the reactions and see how much that 12% and the elemental mastery bonus here is bringing to the table compared to something like the 5-star Skyward Blade here or the 5-star Primordial Jig Cutter. Now, one other thing about the Alley Flash I wanted to mention is that, of course, when you take damage, you are going to lose its bonus. So you saw that I stepped in the fire there, took some damage, I lost its little bonus there, but you will notice it comes back and you get that symbol above your head when it does come back. So that's really nice to know, is that it's very apparent when the bonus is active or at least returned to you. So that's just something that I kind of wanted to mention for some of you out there who may have gotten your own alley flash. Alright, so we're here at the Cryo Registine, you know, the penultimate bench testing mark for Genshin Impact, other than the, you know, the other Pyro Registine, you know, the flower boys. But regardless, the way this is going to work, essentially we're going to go in there, we're going to get the shield down with Bennett, we're going to throw down the Chongyun E, and then we're just going to see what our melt reaction is there with Bennett, just to kind of see the damage there, and then we'll compare that to the other 5 stars. I'm not going to be dropping Bennett's Q here just for purposes of making sure our melt is consistent, and we'll actually go over the bonus he gets an attack later with the different 5 stars, so that'll be right after this segment here. But for now, we're just going to go over the different melt reactions and just kind of check out the difference with the passive here on Alley Flash compared to the other 5 stars. All right, so popping in on the actual Cryo Registine here, go ahead and get that shield down. Let's get Noelle here just to make sure that we don't take damage, so we'd lose our bonus there. You know, that is very important. Shield users are going to be very helpful if you have a Alley Flash character. All right, so let's see our melt reaction here. Is something that's not too bad. Let's see, about 5k on a non-crit. Let's see if we can actually get a crit here. I had 9,000 crit there, so that's nothing too crazy, but we'll go ahead and check it out with the other 5 stars. All right, so we're here with the Skyward Blade, and as you can see, the attack difference is very minimal. And I did want to go ahead and reiterate just my crit rate and crit damage ratios weren't really anything too crazy. That big energy recharge though, right? But I just wanted to show you guys that those weren't anything too crazy, so don't worry about how big the numbers are, just worry about the difference in the numbers. And with the Alley Flash, we're getting about 5k melt on non-crit and 9k melt on crits there, so that's pretty good. And we'll go ahead and see how that actually works out with the Skyward Blade here. So let's see if the 18 extra base attack is actually going to be more than something like the Alley Flash. Alley Flash's bonus there, just see how much that actual passive is contributing to the Alley Flash, along with the Elemental Mastery, of course. Do keep in mind we are at, you know, significantly less Elemental Mastery, so I imagine these melts aren't going to be nearly as good. So yeah, 1900 on a melt there, and 3500 on a crit. Okay, I didn't think it was going to be that crazy different. That is actually substantial. Wow, okay, I really didn't expect that to be that huge of a difference. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the Primordial Jig Cutter. It does have significantly less base attack, but you do notice here on our attributes, we get significantly more attack overall, and that's just because of its passive giving us attack based off of our max HP, which is really darn good, and we still are sitting at that lower Elemental Mastery at 56, and we'll see just how good that is. We'll go ahead and see how this Primordial Jig Cutter performs. That's going to be really interesting. Go ahead and get that going. I guess we don't actually need the shield this time around because we don't have Alley Flash. Alright, get Chong in there. See what a melt is here. Okay, 99 there, not too bad. 9,900 there. See if we can get a non-crit actually. 5,400 there. Okay, so that's really good. Let's go ahead and just, you know, double check real quick on the Skyward Blade there, making sure we weren't doing anything wrong. All right, one more time with the Skyward Blade, because I'm still just in disbelief of how much worse it was. Okay, 4,900. And 8,900. Okay, so we were doing something wrong the first time there. I'll go ahead and just, you know, cut that one out a little bit. Okay, so the difference wasn't nearly as significant as we thought it was, but still definitely different. It wasn't doing as much as the Alley Flash. That is something to note, especially since the Alley Flash does have that 18 less base attack right now. Do keep in mind, when both of these are maxed out, funny enough, the Alley Flash will actually have 18 more base attack than the Skyward Blade here. So that's kind of funny, just how it's working right now and how it's going to work when they're actually both maxed out. And so with that in mind, let's actually go ahead and take a look at the actual attack increase we're going to get based off of our base attacks with these swords. The difference isn't going to be that substantial since these are so close, but it's going to be a really good example of the actual difference when these are actually maxed out. So do keep in mind the Skyward Blade here is going to be more representative of the Alley Flash whenever it's maxed out, rather than, you know, the Alley Flash being representative of what it currently is now. All right, so we got a good idea of just how strong each of these are. And funny enough, the Primordial Jig Cutter actually came out on top just very slightly in the damage department. I imagine it's actually going to get surpassed once the Alley Flash here is actually ascended to its next level, giving it that additional base attack. As well as once it gets a little bit more elemental mastery. But that's a really good representation of how the Alley Flash is definitely keeping up with these 5 stars. In fact, it outpaced the Skyward Blade here, which is really darn crazy. However, you know, I imagine the Skyward Blade might outpace a little bit when you're in your ult with its passive here, but just at a base, the Alley Flash here is outpacing the Skyward Blade here, and is definitely something you might want to consider if you're building something like a main DPS Bennett, or, you know, a future sword character that might actually like this weapon. All right, as for the next segment here, it's going to be very, very simple. We're just going to see the type of attack buff we get from each individual weapon. So let's go ahead and test that real quick. All right, so starting with the Alley Flash here, we have 1334 attack, and then when we hit our Q here, the attack buff we're getting is putting us to 2020, which is very nice. So with Skyward Pride here, we're at 1363, and I've already placed down the ult. I just kind of did this out of order. So when we actually get into the ult, we get to 2069. So the difference is about 49 attack there, which isn't anything crazy, and that's about what you could expect whenever you actually level up these weapons, because funny enough, the Skyward Blade right now has 18 more attack than the Alley Flash currently. And when these are both maxed out, the Alley Flash will actually have 18 more attack than the Skyward Blade at max, which I find pretty darn funny. So just keep that in mind. So whenever these are maxed out, you're approximately going to be getting around 40 extra attack, which isn't really that amazing, but isn't anything to scoff at either. You know, it's something that is definitely there and definitely increasing your damage, albeit not substantially, you know. And then last but not least, we're actually going to try the Primordial Jig Cutter here. Do keep in mind, we're getting a substantial attack buff already from the Primordial Jig Cutter, putting us at 1500 attack. And let's just see what the difference is when we actually get the Q down. So when we get the Q down, that actually puts us at 2170. So that's actually been one of the better results. Now, the actual buff isn't as good as the others, but the end result is better than the others, which is really interesting in my opinion. And the Primordial Jig Cutter is maybe one of the better DPS options for Bennett, but of course it's a 5-star, and of course it's no longer available, so something like the Alley Flash is actually going to be an amazing option. It's really going toe-to-toe with both of these 5-star weapons, and both of these 5-star weapons are arguably best in slot for Bennett, depending how you're building him. If you're building him as a support, I still think Skyward Blade is probably going to be the best for you, but if you like a sub-DPS Bennett or even a main DPS Bennett, then the Alley Flash is going to be a really good option that sits there and actually straight up competes with some of these 5-stars, and that's actually incredible. I think MiHoYo did a pretty darn good job making a 4-star that competes with 5 stars, but definitely does have a downside of its substat not being necessarily an amazing substat. Elemental Mastery is good, but also being a substat that is traditionally lower than the substat number we would normally get, and I think the passive here is also lending it a lot of help as well. So these are just a lot of things you got to consider when you're thinking about the Alley Flash as a weapon for maybe your Bennett or maybe even your Xingqiu. The fact that this passive does work while your character's off the field is amazing as well, and I think that's actually incredible. So if you have a Xingqiu, just kit it out with some energy recharge, and you don't need a sacrificial sword or you just don't have one, the Alley Flash is actually going to be an amazing option for you, and is going to allow your Xingqiu to just hit those big numbers, and I find that really interesting as well. Now, I think Festering Desire might even outpace something like the Alley Flash here, just because you get that extra skill damage and skill crit rate and energy recharge. So I think Bennett overall would probably benefit from something like Festering Desire over Alley Flash. But I did want to go ahead and sit there and just kind of show you guys the benefits of Alley Flash, as Alley Flash overall right now just doesn't really fit on any character specifically. A lot of the weapons in the game can kind of feel made for characters a lot of times, like something like Primordial Jig Cutter feels kind of made for somebody like Bennett or Xingqiu because they have that HP scaling. But Alley Flash at this current point in time doesn't feel like it's necessarily made for any specific character. However, I wouldn't put it past MiHoYo to make a sword character that really works with Alley Flash in the future. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. It's definitely a rock solid 4-star option. By no means the best sword in the game, but definitely not a bad one either. And I just kind of wanted to show you guys the benefits on Bennett here, just to kind of exemplify some of the better qualities of Alley Flash. Anyway, that's pretty much going to be it for the video. Hopefully this gave you guys a rough idea of just how good the Alley Flash is. I think it's a rock solid 4-star option, and the fact that it can compete with some of the 5 stars is really, really cool. And although it doesn't really feel made for any particular character as of yet, I'm sure in the future MiHoYo is going to be dropping a sword character at some point that is just really going to meld with the Alley Flash in the future, and I'm glad I'm probably going to have it on standby there. It's also just a good sub option to have. I like the fact that its passive works off the field. I think that gives it a large use case for a lot of characters. Like, I never would have thought to put it on Xingqiu until I knew that the passive worked off the field, so I think that's really cool. But we'll go ahead and see how that develops in the future. But as of right now, it's just a really good option. By no means a must pull or anything, but I hope it really helped you guys made your decision on whether or not you guys wanted to wish on that weapon banner. As I said, if you enjoyed, please leave a like below, subscribe for more. We'll be doing more videos like these. I got a Diona build coming for you guys very soon, so stay tuned for that one. But other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace.